Lockout has been one of those levels that has really grown to become a staple when people think of Halo multiplayer. Whether it's known for its original competitive modes of Halo 2, the remakes over the years, the mysterious urban legends that still puzzle the community to this day to the point where some people thought that their games were haunted, or even the early variations of this map that were supposedly supposed to make their way into Halo Combat Evolved that didn't quite make it into the final cut of the game. There's a lot about this map that really piqued our interest when diving into the lore and history of multiplayer levels. As it turns out, Lockout's inspiration actually comes from a time that predates Halo. In 1996, arena shooters would be changed forever upon the release of Quake, and one of the multiplayer levels that would become a fan favorite in the Quake community, known as DM6 The Dark Zone, this would actually serve as the inspiration for what would eventually become the Halo 2 level Lockout. As it turns out, Chris Carney, one of the map designers for Combat Evolved and Halo 2, really liked the idea of a complex yet small map where all the pathways led players to the middle. As it turns out, work had begun on a map that was intended to be featured in Halo Combat Evolved, called The Cage. While the map never made its way into the final release of the game, this map would appear as a map in Halo Reach, where Carney was tasked at trying to create a map in Forge World using the Forge World tools to show what was possible in Forge World. But nonetheless, when Halo 2 released, we really got to see Lockout in all of its greatness. Not only was the map unique in how it played, it allowed different gameplay that was more or less balanced, whether it was a 1v1 game of Slayer or 4v4 Capture the Flag. Aesthetically, this map really stood out as well. Besides being propped up on a cliffside somewhere on Delta Halo, the snowfall was actually a really unique touch, reminding us of the snow from Installation 04, which was favorable in containing the flood at research stations, which kind of ended up being thematically an idea that Bungie revisited when they were picking locations for some of the Halo 2 multiplayer levels. They like to remind us of locations that didn't quite make their way into the campaign, but existed in the larger Halo universe. For instance, there was Backwash, which, while taking place on Delta Halo instead of Installation 04, definitely had inspiration from the level Guilty Spark from the first Halo game. It was always cool when the multiplayer levels just shared little tidbits of lore. It was something that I really appreciated alongside a bunch of other Halo fans back in the day. Now, the various buildings connecting together was a cool way where new players could just jump in and kind of know what's going on. And with multiple levels to give vantage points or literal drops on other players, the functionality of this level was actually really good. There was this green hallway that was actually inspired by a marathon level, Mars Needs Women, and that was actually confirmed at PAX 2014, but it's just the little tidbits of the location mixed with the little information you get from the menu settings and just the skybox we can look at that just painted this unique and atmospheric vibe around Lockout that so many people really loved. But we definitely can't talk about Halo 2 Lockout without at least mentioning one of the biggest ghostly urban legends to come out of Halo from back in the day. Now, typically Luke and I don't really take the ideas of supernatural occurrences happening in a video game of all places too seriously. You know, things like creepypastas or theories, it's all good fun, but if there's an explanation, I think it would be more fun to point out the odd occurrences happening rather than thinking the game is, actually haunted by ghosts. But back in the early days of YouTube, 2006 to be exact, the Halo community would become shook at the idea of there maybe being a ghost on the level Lockout. Essentially, in this old video that was made by Underdog and Anti-Noob, great gamer tags by the way, which actually ended up getting deleted off of YouTube, but potentially because of copyrighted music, during a 1v1 game, a random third player appeared and began jumping around erratically. Much of the kills were oddly attributed to being killed by the Guardians, and this player would just slide around, pulling off sticks you wouldn't think would be possible, and no one else seemed to be in the game if you looked at the leaderboards. These guys seemed mostly curious as to what was going on rather than scared, and even tried to help the community debunk what it could have been. The footage definitely isn't clear. This video was apparently recorded pre-2006, but the curiosity was there, and that's all the community really needed to run on it. Shortly after this video was seen by a few people in the community, more and more videos started popping up about this alleged ghost of Lockout showing up in their own games, and later iterations of this level would see similar videos as well. For the most part, many Halo 2 users would post videos with this mysterious player loading in, sliding around, and this character wouldn't have any identifiable tags, no gamer tag or anything that would really make this character stand out. Now, some members of the community ran with it, thinking Lockout is just about as haunted as the moon in Destiny, while others chalked it up to it being someone on a modded Xbox joining in just to mess with other players. Personally, we think what most likely happened is that somewhere in Halo 2's spaghetti code, if someone joins the game during some really weird lag spike, sometimes the player will load in, but Halo 2 fails to obtain their information and fails to load the character and fails to load the player correctly on the other player screens, or fully for that matter. We get this nameless player who just joins and slides around in the game with no actual realization that he is appearing as a ghost to the other players. Then when players are surprised and freak out and choke, this other player can just easily clap them, as on their own perspective, things are just playing out normally. Now, interestingly enough, this video, uploaded from Master Chief Collection in 2018, actually has the same glitch occur, but the dude playing in the video is pretty chill and just kills the ghost and doesn't really think twice about it. And oddly enough, there was another popular video that popped up during the Halo 3 days shortly after the Lockout remake Blackout was released, and while the uploaders claim it's not a hoax, the fact that they were literally heavily trying to promote some defunct Xbox modding website makes us think that it probably definitely was a hoax. Either way, Lockout's legacy would exist long beyond the initial run of Halo 2. Its urban legend status would run huge for various machinima series, and it would serve as a great inspiration as a regular map for the very popular Halo 3 map, Guardian. Now, Guardian took the similar idea of having every path lead to the middle, but more considerations were made for larger team gameplay, which allowed for longer sight lines to better fit into Halo 3's pool of weaponry, along with enough room to maneuver and change angles without getting cornered too quickly. And while Guardian itself wasn't a remake, we would see a full remake of the level Lockout in DLC through the level Blackout. Now, this level at its core had the same skeleton as Halo 2's Lockout, but there were some major changes made. A lot of the proportions of platforms had been altered, sightlines had been changed significantly in some sections of the map. The map was, now at night, and there was this really cool basketball hoop here. But while aesthetically this map is our favorite iteration of Lockout, from a competitive standpoint, many players were not actually fans of this variation, as a lot of core mechanics that were once popular in Halo 2 were altered to nearly an unrecognizable state. Certain jumps had been removed, hindering mobility, windows removed, giving opposing players more cover. It was a pretty controversial remake for its time, and after the release of Blackout, this level would mostly be left alone after Halo 3. It did see one more remake in Minecraft Halo Mashup Minecraft Evolved Pack, which saw Blackout as one of the few remade multiplayer levels released in 2014. When Halo Reach rolled around, we talked about how the earlier predecessor, The Cage, finally made its way into a final release, but during that Forge vidoc, where they were showcasing what could be done in Halo Reach's Forge mode, you can clearly see a Lockout appear briefly in the video as well. Some players even questioned members at Bungie and got confirmation that the level was mostly finished, but they opted to using The Cage instead. Still, it was cool to see that many players in Halo Reach took it upon themselves to make a dedicated remake to Lockout on Halo Reach. Halo 4 wouldn't feature a Lockout remake officially, but it did see a community-made remake on Ravine called Shutout by forger Big Papa Sowlet. I hope I said that name right. I don't know what's going on there. This would actually be used in multiplayer rotation, and while it wasn't not nearly as aesthetically pleasing as the good old Lockout or Blackout, it was modified in a way that still played well enough with Halo 4. Then, boom! Halo 2 Anniversary came out, and finally, it revived the much-wanted official remake for Lockout in Halo 2 Anniversary's Lockdown. The map played mostly identical to the OG, with some new things added in as well. All of a sudden, there were these icicles you could shoot to drop on enemies. There was some extra cover available in the non-anniversary version of the level. There was a few wider walkways here and there, and they changed the skybox since the blue team could blend in really well in the original version. But the best thing about this was that a lot of these minor changes and fixes could actually be altered in Forge mode, so players could revert to a more classic experience if that's what they ended up choosing. And to this day, Lockdown still is a really great looking map of the original Lockout that came out all the way back when Halo 2 initially released. And in the grand scheme of Lockout and all of the versions we've seen over the years, that's about it when it comes to the newer iterations. However, in Halo 5, the user Time Dipper did make a really cool looking remake that does capture the original feel, but also plays plays really well for Halo 5. And we really hope that with the future of Halo Infinite coming, maybe we can see a mix of old and new maps, and perhaps we'll see Lockout considered to make its triumphant return just once again. But hey, if you guys liked this video, make sure you guys hit the like button down below and be sure to subscribe with notifications on for more videos like this. We sometimes try to do good videos.
And also make sure to follow us on Twitter at Rocket Elijah. You can follow him over here, and at Rocket Sloth Luke, you can follow me. So make sure you follow both of us there. And thanks for watching our videos. We'll see you next time.